This is the only way I guess that like women can kind of understand it. Let's do it. Okay. All right. So a lot of women don't understand why men want variety and everything else like this. So I'll just explain it, right? So you guys can kind of see where I'm coming from with this. So there's a candy store, okay? Women are allowed into the candy store 18 years old. So all you guys, lovely ladies on the couch, right? You guys are young and attractive, right? You're 21 and you're 21 too? Both of you guys are at your peak right now. Right. So you guys are in the candy store. All of you ladies are in the candy store as well. You're allowed at 18 years old. The men are not allowed in though. They're not allowed in until they're 35 years old, have $100,000 saved up, and have been in the gym for 5 years consistently, right? So you go in a candy store. You might have fun at first, right? You're eating your Laffy Taffy. You're eating your Starburst. You figure out that the yellow Starburst is disgusting. Yellow Laffy Taffy is disgusting. You like the pink Starburst, whatever it is, right? You start to develop taste. So you like to figure out your aisles. You know where you're going to stay in the store, right? But the guys, they're outside working, just waiting to get that money and get in that fucking candy store. So 18 years passes, and the men are finally allowed in to have saved up enough money and been in the gym, right? They run in and storm the candy store, right? Go nuts. They're eating all the candies that you guys were rejecting, the Tootsie Rolls and shit, disgusting candies, Laffy Taffy, candy corn. They're eating all that stuff. You're like, yo, what the hell is wrong with you, bro? Chill out. What the fuck is wrong with you? But what you ladies don't understand is that the men had to wait there for almost 20 years to get into the candy store. So for them, just being in a candy store and being able to finally get that access of different flavors and everything else it's amazing for them because they had to work to get it. And what women don't understand is that, I always say this, privilege is invisible to those that have it, okay? So it's very difficult for women to understand the concept of why men like to have sex with a lot of girls, because you guys get sexual abundance at pretty much, as soon as women are born with value, ladies. Men have to create their value. So for us to get in that same candy store, we ultimately have to bring something to the table. So if a man busts his ass for years, saves the money, gets in shape, everything like that, gets in that candy store, why do you think he should only have one piece of candy?
Okay, there is just one little flaw in this logic, okay? And that is that it is total bullshit, okay? Men are allowed in the sweet shop before the age of 35, okay? If you talk to, say, teenage boys, some of them have dated girls before. If you talk to young men in their early 20s, a lot of them have dated women, had relationships with women. Some of them are even married, okay, in their early 20s. Men in their late 20s, most of them have had like some kind of serious relationship with a woman before, and again some of them are married, okay? So where do you get this idea that men are not allowed in the sweet shop until the age of 35, okay? In fact, Myron Gaines, like, he wasn't 35 when he first lost his virginity, okay? So he's had like sex and relationships with women before when he was young. So where is this like idea coming from that like he wasn't allowed in the sweet shop before the age of 35? Like, where does that come from? In fact, I think that when red pillars tell young men that if they have as much casual sex with as many women as possible when they're young, that when they reach middle age that there'll be a 20-year-old virgin angel traditional woman waiting to marry them, I think that that's a lie, okay, that very often gets told to these guys. I think the actual sweet shop analogy that these guys try to live by is this one. If you're a young man and you go into the sweet shop, you are encouraged to try and eat as many different types of sweets as that you possibly can. If you're a young woman and you go into the sweet shop, you're supposed to, as quickly as possible, choose one of the nearest sweets to you, because if you end up trying out lots of different sweets, then your value is going to go down. While if you're a man and you claim to have eaten hundreds of different types of sweets before, you're not expected to be judged on that at all. And then if the man finds the right sweet for him, he finds a sweet that he wants to keep for the rest of his life, he's still encouraged to keep on eating lots of different types of sweets, because to expect him to like just keep to one type of sweet for the rest of his life and resist any temptation to try other kinds of sweets is really cruel and unreasonable. However, the woman is expected to resist any temptation she might have to try out different sweets, because she owes it to this one sweet that she's picked. She owes this sweet respect and loyalty and to be faithful, but to expect the same in return is apparently completely crazy from the woman, apparently. The claiming that, women are just so privileged, are just so spoiled and privileged, and they just don't recognise their privilege. This is the same tactic that feminists use to shut men up. They're like, oh, you're a man, you're privileged, you have everything easy, so you don't have a right to, speak up for yourself. You don't have a right to disagree with our opinions, because you don't know what it's like to be a woman, because you're so privileged. They use the exact same tactic. Guys from the manosphere, guys from the red pill community use the same tactic that the feminists use. confused, okay? The thing is, there's advantages and disadvantages of being a man, and there's advantages and disadvantages of being a woman, okay? The grass is always greener on the other side. It's like, yes, when it comes to dating, that is an area where women are privileged, and it is easier for women to get dates and get attention and all that from men. Yes, that is true. But women risk their life in childbirth, so that the man gets to pass on his genetics. Okay, so that's why women should like only choose a guy who is loyal, loving, respectful, and not somebody who would like throw his family under the bus just because he can't apparently resist having sex with strange women. Okay, this is why women have evolved to be the more fussy and selective gender. Okay, so they should pick decent men and not guys that like have no respect for them. Okay, because if you're a man or a woman, if you can't be faithful and having a monogamous relationship is just way too hard for you, well then fair enough, it's not for everybody, but you shouldn't then enter like in a marriage or to a committed relationship if you're going to hold your partner up to a higher moral standard than what you hold yourself up to. Okay, the idea that it's okay for you to like just sleep around with other people and not your partner, and say like, oh well, I'm gonna bribe her, I'll just give her a load of money and buy her a load of presents so that I feel less guilty and so that she doesn't get so annoyed about it. It's like, that's not a healthy relationship. But also the really disgusting claim that as long as the guy's providing for you and paying for stuff for you, that you should be okay with being cheated on. That's like really disgusting. It's like these guys do not understand about love, compassion, caring about your partner's feelings and mutual respect in a relationship, okay? Like who the man is as a person is not supposed to matter to the woman at all. Like, it's like, well, as long as he's paying your bills and buying you everything that you want, like surely it doesn't matter what kind of man he is. It doesn't matter if he's the sort of guy who cheats on you. It doesn't matter if he's the kind of guy who has no respect for you. It doesn't matter if he makes a living on YouTube out of picking on women and making fun of women. You're like, you shouldn't worry about that, because as long as like he's giving you money and providing for you, like why would you care? It's like, really, seriously, a woman's not supposed to care like who her husband is? And it's like, what kind of woman do you think you would attract when you have that mentality, okay, with relationships, okay? Because say like nowadays women don't actually need a provider, okay? Women can provide for themselves. Young women are out earning young men and are more educated than men, okay? So as a generalization, so if women do not need, and I think this is why these guys will always say things like oh, the more educated a woman is, or the more money a woman earns, or the higher up she is job status wise, the less attractive they find her. And it's because they want a woman who's not able to provide for themselves, because then she's more likely to like put up with their shit and be alright with being disrespected, alright with being cheated on, okay? Because like the more women can provide for themselves, the more they are not likely to put up with rubbish guys, okay? But even if you get like, say like the traditional woman who says like, well actually, yeah, I want a guy that will provide for me, I want to be the stay-at-home mum. Well, even like those women, it's like they still want a man who is loving, caring, respects them, and is a good husband and father, okay? Because say like most of the time, the traditional women, they seem to be Christian women as well, right? Well, if they're a Christian woman, then presumably they're a virgin until they get married, and like presumably they would want the same for a man, or at least they don't want a man who's going to be cheating on them, because if they're Christians, surely they will respect the marriage vows. Okay, so the point I'm getting at is, like, what kind of woman do you think that these guys in the red pill community are actually aiming for? Because women who are independent, provide for themselves, don't need a provider, are not going to be, like, bought by, like, these guys who are like, well, I've got loads of money, so you should put up with a misogynist who is disrespectful to women on YouTube all the time and will cheat on you. Like, a woman who doesn't need a provider is not going to put up with that. But then, like, when you go for the, like, traditional Christian women who do want a provider, they're not going to put up with somebody who's uncaring and is cheating on them either. So the only kind of women that, like, these guys are going for, to put it politely, are whores, basically. Because, like, it's just sex in exchange for money, okay? Like, I mean, to get on his show, like, sometimes he says to women, like, oh, you know, if you have sex with me, you can get on my show and then you'll get loads of views, and this will promote your OnlyFans and all this kind of thing. And when he's talked about, like, trying to get sex from women, he talks about, like, buying them stuff and spending lots of money on them. Okay, and then with relationships, he's like, well, if, you know, I provide for them, I buy them lots of stuff, I spend lots of money, they should be okay with me cheating on them. It's like, these guys are just going for women who are just basically gold diggers, because, like what I said before, like, shallow people attract shallow people. People attract people the same as similar to their self. Okay, so shallow people attract shallow people. So when it comes to guys who just view women for sex and have no respect or compassion for them and will just treat them like shit and cheat on them, they are likewise attracting women that are also degenerate, or sleep with you just because you're spending a lot of money on her. She's only with you for the money. She has no love or compassion. And if you marry her, yes, she'll divorce you and take you to the cleaners in the divorce court because she didn't care about you in the first place and she only wanted your money in the first place. Okay, that's what these guys are aiming for. Okay, so that's all I've got to say about that for now. Thank you for listening.